Well, this is Tom Padula from TomPadulaTV on YouTube and Insegna Booksellers, and it's time for another canto of the Divine Comedies Paradiso. So this is number 7. It's canto 7, and it's program 85. Now, very important, really, to reflect on the Paradiso, because a lot of what Dante talks about relates to the doctrine, Christian doctrine, and especially theology, the study of God. Now, this was very big during the Middle Ages because God was everything at the time, because the Catholic Church was in charge, both materially and spiritually. The Pope had great powers in the time of Dante's life. And, you know, the effect of the power that the Pope had was felt right across Europe. But things never remained the same. So as time went on, things changed. But for Dante, who was writing the Divine Comedy and who had gone to Rome on behalf of the Guelphs, on his way back, he found out that the Ghibellines had picked up power in Florence and, in fact, had expelled him. He had to go into exile, because otherwise there would have been, well, he would have been punished very severely for being one of the, the important people in the previous government of Florence. So from then on, Dante was really an exile outside of Florence, the rest of Italy. So he went from court to court. Of course, he was very well known and respected. So people did, the important people in other parts of Italy accepted him for who he was, an important intellectual. But as he said, going up and down the stairs of other people's castles wasn't a nice thing for him to experience, but that's what it was. It's incredible. Now, we're coming December. Today is Sunday, the 3rd of December, 2023. Now, as a result of the fact that we are close to Christmas, I will be on and off in terms of being on all the time with my online presence. So, for example, this coming week, I won't be doing starting with French on Tuesday, world history on Thursday, Italian on Friday, and Spanish on Saturday. I won't be on at that time, but I will pick up again next Sunday, the 14th. No, sorry, Sunday the 3rd. Sunday the 10th of December. Okay, so this is where we're at, where I am at the moment. We've started at 6:57, so I'll be finishing off at 8:02. So an hour and 5 minutes, 5 minutes for my introduction, and at 7:02 I will start with the reading. Well, not the reading, but going into Canto 7 of Paradiso, and what some of the issues, theological issues, emanate from this canto. Because let's not forget that Dante's main job after Inferno and Purgatorio is to explain who goes into Paradiso, what is the structure of Paradiso, and why is God doing things in the way that Dante's described it through Beatrice. Beatrice accompanies him through Paradiso. So Virgil left him at the end of Purgatorio. Beatrice came down the last canto or so, and then she accompanied him into Paradiso. Into Paradiso Terrestre was the number one, but then as he went up the mountain of Paradiso, there are certain Paradisos structured like a pyramid, really, where Paradiso Terrestre is right at the bottom, and then the sky is divided up into important circles, important places where the blessed souls who arrive in Paradiso are rewarded according to how they arrived at their own blessedness. So we have Il Cielo della Luna, that's number one. We've done that. Now we've got the Il Cielo di Mercurio. This continues in Canto 7, and then Canto 8 will be Il Cielo di Venere. So as Dante moves up, he becomes more aware, more prepared to look at the nature of what Paradiso is and what the souls are experiencing there in the various Cieli before we get to the place right at the top where God resides with his inner circle, sort of thing. It's not a bad idea. Okay, 703, we'll start, and I'll start with the summary of chapter 7. It's quite a long summary today. I'm not sure whether I will go through it all, but I think I will. Okay, let's go. Justinian, Justinian in Canto 6 spoke to Dante, and most of the canto was, in fact, his racconto, is telling us how it was in Roman times. But at this point here, Justinian and other souls whirl out of sight singing. They sing. And they say, well, basically, they're back to Dante. They go their own way. Dante has a question for Beatrice, but embarrassed by her radiant smile, he stays silent. He actually doesn't talk to Beatrice. He allows her to take charge because she can read his mind, basically. But Beatrice perceives and speaks his question. How is it just, Dante wonders, for vengeance to befall just vengeance? Now this is difficult. Lyle Ellen, welcome. This is a difficult question because we're dealing with theology here. So why is it? How is it just, Dante wonders, for vengeance to befall just vengeance? So what does this mean? Beatrice explains that the first human being, Adam, sinned and condemned subsequent generations to sin. So Adam, because he betrayed God in a way, he didn't follow what God wanted. He allowed the partner that presumably came out of his side, that was Eve, to let him get that famous apple. Now, sinned, so they were, humanity as a result of that, lost its blessed state. And they stayed that way for centuries to come, until Christ arrives. Now, this is a theological question. How come God becomes incarnate? In other words, how come he gets, he chooses to take on the body of a human being and present himself as a God? Now, this is hard for us to understand, but faith depends on this. If you have faith, you must believe that Jesus Christ was God, the Son of God. So a part of himself came to earth and said, we're going to redeem Adam's sin. We're going to give humanity a chance to redeem itself. So, God could have just said, I'll pardon them all. But he chose not to. He chose to give us liberty, freedom, to do the right thing. If you do the wrong thing, then there was a bit of a punishment there. In other words, you got the Inferno and Purgatorio, according to Dante always. So let's go on. So Adam sinned and condemned subsequent generations' sin, humanity having abandoned its creator, God. Then centuries later, God chose to become incarnate as a human being out of love, thereby uniting fallen human nature with himself. So again, he says, oh, well, I can't let them all go there. They've got to be a part of me again. Dante's discussion of earthly justice with Justinian prompts questions about divine justice. There are two types of justice here. The one that we understand as human beings, and the one, divine justice, which we don't really understand what God does. What God does, God does. He doesn't have to answer to us. And we can't really understand the way he operates. His somewhat obscure question requires some unpacking. Just vengeance refers to the crucifixion. So we're looking at Christ's crucifixion, and we say, which atoned for humanity's sin. Because he went on, so they put him on the cross, and he atones for our sins. Well, traditionally, Christians claimed that the crucifixion was avenged by God through the destruction of Jerusalem by Roman forces in 70 after Christ. So what happened 70 years after the crucifixion? Jerusalem was razed to the ground by the Romans, and that was seen as one of the jobs of the Roman Empire on behalf of God. That's why they call Rome the eternal city, because from this point of view. Dante wonders how the just punishment of humanity could justly be avenged by God. In response, Beatrice first explains that to bring about humanity's atonement, God chose to become man, human and divine natures being united in the person of Jesus Christ. So one has to accept that Jesus Christ is both man and God at the same time. Now, one of the other religions doesn't like this explanation here. It's a question of Catholic Christian doctrine. All of Christianity believes that. Beatrice continues her explanation. At the cross, when Christ was crucified, human nature, as united to Christ, underwent the just penalty for its sin. From us, an entirely perspective, therefore, Christ's death pleased his persecutors. From a heavenly perspective, Christ's death satisfied God's justice too. The vengeance wrought for this event, the fall of Jerusalem in 70 after Christ, can thus, in Beatrice's view, be understood as just vengeance. I personally can't grasp this myself. I find it hard. When Christ died, multiple things were happening at once. Christ was being unjustly killed by tormentators. So I said, I will prefer him to be killed because he claims to be God. He said, follow my way. That's what he said. Whenever he was asked, who are you? We don't really, he says, well, don't worry about anything else. Just do what I tell you. And if you do and live according to my precepts, you will be in paradise one day. Therefore, from an earthly perspective, the destruction of Jerusalem could be viewed as a just response to those who, not having God's purpose in view, condemned Christ to death. So because the rest of the people in Jerusalem sort of preferred to have Christ punished on the cross, then things had to happen. So from a human point of view, he died for us. So his body was destroyed, but then he was resurrected. And that's the divine part. And that's another one of the questions that will follow. Dante wants to know why God chose this means of redemption and not some other. Okay, so that's the question I asked. Beatrice explains that nobody whose mind is immature can understand it fully. Mind immature means you're not ready to receive the gift of God, of knowing, because you haven't gone up far enough into paradise in order to understand God's purpose in all this. Anything that's so immature can understand. However, God's chosen means of redemption springs from his generosity. He says, look at what he does. He's generous towards the people. He says, well, we're going to redeem Christ. He's not going to die. He's part of me. So if he's part of me, he can't, we've atoned for Adam's sin. Now that you know that he's my son, God on earth, then by following him, then you can attain or reach his divine nature. That's the redemption. It's a bit, takes a while to understand it, at least just the idea. Now, that is part of God's goodness, generosity. Okay? So, however, human beings, because of their sinful nature, have forfeited this perfect dignity and must make... Wait a minute. However, God's chosen means of redemption springs from his generosity of character, which constantly unfolds eternal beauties. Anything that's directly created by God, in fact, perfectly reflects God's goodness. However, human beings, because of their sinful nature, have forfeited this perfect dignity and must make amends for sin. God could have made this possible either by simply pardoning humanity outright or by allowing for humanity to offer satisfaction. Welcome to Maria Nuccio Formica. Ultimately, human beings cannot fully understand God's justice. However, the crucifixion does clearly reveal God's character, specifically his generosity. Well, yes, because he says, well, I'm going to atone for humanity's sin. That's how it's done. God didn't have to provide this specific means of redemption. He could simply have disregarded human sin, for example, but God's enabling humanity through Christ to participate in their own redemption is a greater display of God's generous character. Now, these are notes that other people have written, of course. I'm not claiming, I'm just contributing to the explanation and trying to work out exactly what it means to be in Canto 7 and why is Dante asking these questions here. Now, Beatrice continues her explanations. Left to themselves, Beatrice goes on, human beings could not give satisfaction for their sin. That's why God provided the means in himself by which humans could make satisfaction. Because of God's innate generosity, it pleased God most to provide the means that best displayed his generosity. His humble action of humanity on humanity's behalf is therefore even more generous than free pardon would have been. So the fact that Christ went on the cross, etc., is a more generous display of God's justice, divine justice, and his generosity towards humanity. Human beings are not capable in themselves of making restitution for their sins to God, because you've offended him, so that's it. Now, the debt is too great. In Beatrice's view, God's generosity in humbly becoming a human being in order to atone for human sin is the clearest revelation of God's character. Now, we're talking about theology here. Most people out in our community, they don't, you have to be going to, you've got to become a priest, or you've got to want to follow, to serve God directly for you to access theology and try to work all these things out. Now, as a final point, Beatrice discusses secondary causes. Elements like fire, earth, water, eventually fail and decay. Beatrice explains that all created things have this characteristic. The human soul is a key exception, because God himself directly breathes a soul into people. This explains why human beings will eventually be resurrected. So when you go to church on a Sunday and the priest says blah, 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 or you go to a funeral, then he says, this is only the beginning of another, the end of one life and beginning the other life. You've got to think of the fact that God has, when he created the human being, Adam, he breathed a soul into him and then left him and the soul for centuries before Christ arrives. And then eventually, other religious leaders they denies the fact that Christ is God is both human and divine. Okay, so this is Canto 7. It was a long explanation, analysis, but now I'm going to read from the Italian. And I'm going to have to be a little bit faster because the explanation has already been given, but I'll do my best. Hosanna sanctus Deus Sabaoth, super lustrans claritate tua felices ignes horum malakoth. So there are a couple of words here that come from the voice of Christ where he was born. He was Jewish, he spoke in Jewish language of old. Now, and with this Justinian and the other souls, they walk away. Hosanna sanctus Deus Sabaoth, super illustrans claritate tua felices ignes aurum malakoth. So it would be fantastic if people came and bought the Inferno, Purgatorio and Paradiso, so that at least you could access this, what I'm saying. But this, whatever I say, remains online, and I've told you how to do it before, so I'm not going to go anymore. So let's go on. Così, volgendosi alla nota sua, fu viso a me cantare essa sustanza, sopra la qual doppio lume s'addua. So he says here, il canto si ricollega subito all'azione itinerale dei versi precedenti. So in other words, he continues from Canto 6. Così volgendosi, and he goes away, Justinian. He was a good king, a good emperor. Ed essa e l'altra mossero la sua danza, so everyone else followed him. E quasi velocissime faville mi si velar di subita distanza. And so they went away and put a lot of distance between him and them. Okay? Io dubitava e dicea, dille, fra me, dille, dicea, alla mia donna che mi disseta con le dolci stille. I was thinking, I want to ask Beatrice some questions here. How do I do it? Dille. I'm too embarrassed, too shy to do it. But of course, Beatrice knows what he wants to know. Ma quella reverenza che si indonna di tutto me, pur per e perice, mi richinava come l'uomo che sonna. So I was, saying, oh gosh, I can't ask her. He was putting his head down as if he was falling asleep. Poco sofferse me cotal Beatrice e cominciò raggiandomi d'un riso tal che nel fuoco faria l'uom felice. And there she comes. She says, here, with a radiant smile, I'm going to let you into these secrets of theology from my point of view, because I have been blessed by God to live in paradise after I'm gone. But you, viaggiatore, you have to go back to earth once your journey finishes. So she's aware of that. So she says, I'm going to explain to you so that you can explain it to them. Now take note, Dante. All right, let's go on. Poco sofferse me cotal Beatrice e cominciò raggiandomi d'un riso tal che nel fuoco faria l'uom felice. Secondo mio infallibile avviso, come giusta vendetta giustamente punita fosse, t'ha in pensier miso. Ma io ti solverò tosto la mente, e tu ascolta che le mie parole di gran sentenza ti faranno presente. So it says, notice what happens here. You're talking about, la vendetta, giustamente punita. So the fact that somebody crucified my son was giustamente punita. E tu ascolta, and listen to my words. Per non soffrire alla virtù che vuole freno a suo prode, quell'uomo che non nacque, dannando sé, dannò tutta sua prole. L'uomo che non nacque, who was the man that didn't, who wasn't born, who was not born from a woman, as normal. He was a man, but he wasn't born. He was created by God. I want to be cheeky here, a bit like Geppetto does with Pinocchio. He's sort of creative and then gives it a soul. And so I think, that's the idea, that Adam was not born. He was the first one of humanity's models. Per non soffrire alla virtù che vuole, freno a sua prode, quell'uomo che non nacque, dannando sé, dannò tutta sua prole. Onde l'umana specie inferma giacque, giù per secoli molti in gran errore, finché al verbo di Dio discendere piacque, la natura, che dal suo fattore s'era allungata, unì a sé in persona con l'atto sol del suo eterno amore. So, because of the love that God felt once again for humanity, He sent His Son, il Verbo di Dio, His Son into humanity in order to reconnect this humanity to Himself. Angela, Imola, thank you very much for the comment. Or drizza il viso a quel cor si ragiona, questa natura al suo fattore unita, qual fu creata, fu sincera e buona, ma per se stessa pur fu ella sbandita di paradiso, però che si torse da via di verità e da sua vita. Now, this one here, I have to read it again, okay? So we've got in grande errore, finché al verbo di Dio discendere, so He sent His Son down to earth. And then He says, ma per se ordrizza il viso, a quel cor si ragiona. Now, just be more conscious of what I'm going to say. Questa natura al suo fattore unita. So that's the reason that Christ came, in order to unite once again humanity to God. Allora, from there, la pena dunque che la croce porse, sa la natura assunta sin misura, nulla giammai si giustamente morse, e così nulla fu di tanta ingiuria, guardando alla persona che sofferse in che era contratta tal natura. So, this vengeance, if you like, the vengeance that that Christ showed through God's generosity by being crucified. He says, look what I can do for you. I'm going to help you atone for the original sin committed by Adam. But don't forget, you are free. You have to be good. So in other words, that's the first thing, the atonement of the sins by Adam for the rest of humanity, forever, before and after. Look at this. Però d'un atto uscir cose diverse. E così nulla fu di tanto ingiuria, guardando la persona che sofferse in che era contratta tal natura. So we got to that stage there. Però, then Dante says, well, you know, we can't really kill the Son of God. That's ridiculous. You know, who's going to be punished out of this? Guess what? The Jews are going to be punished. Però ad un atto uscir cose diverse, che a Dio e a Giudei piacque una morte, per lei tremò la terra e il cielo s'aperse. And so that's when then, as a result of that, 70 years after the crucifixion, Jerusalem is laid bare by the Romans. And they used to put salt on the earth, apparently. They'd done that in some other parts of their empire. Per lei tremò la terra e il cielo s'aperse. Non ti dea ormai parer più forte quando si dice che giusta vendetta poscia vengiata fu da giusta corte. Ma io veggio or la tua mente ristretta di pensiero in pensier dentro ad un nodo, del qual con grande disio solver s'aspetta. Says, I can understand that you can't understand what I'm saying, because you can't understand this giusta vendetta. You know, on one hand, Jesus Christ gets crucified and he atones for the sins, and on the other hand, then the people who crucify him receive God's justice. What's going on here? Where's God's generosity towards the Jews for killing his son? So it's a bit difficult, isn't it, really, when you're dealing with theology in like Dante, you know, like Dante is tackling in the Paradiso, in his, you know, Middle Ages Paradiso. Tu dici, ben discerno ciò che odo, I understand, ma perché Dio volesse me occulto a nostra redenzione per questo modo? So, I understand. I'm beginning to understand you, Dante says, but I've got another question. How come then he gives us redemption through Christ's redemption? That's why after you sinned, after you've killed him, etc., you've gone through the human path of God's death. That's the human part, the death and the crucifixion. But then there is another one that you have to tackle, and that's when he comes out of that tomb and his body disappears and is taken back into the heavens. So in other words, the body of Christ is not left on earth. It goes up to heaven. Now, is Christ in heaven like a human being, or is he just spirit? That's another good reflection that comes out of this. Questo decreto, frate, sta sepolto agli occhi di ciascuno il cui ingegno nella fiamma d'amor non è adulto. So if you don't love, if you don't have faith, you can't really accept all this. Veramente però che questo segno molto si mira e poco si discerne. Dirò perché tal modo fu più degno. So, veramente però che questo segno molto si mira, we think about this so much as C.D. Sheridan, and we try to make it understand it, but really, unless you have faith, you're going to be in trouble. Dirò perché tal modo fu più degno. So, in other words, why did God give us the redemption of Christ? La divina bontà, divina bontà, His generous nature, che da sé sperne ogni livore, ardendo in sé, sfavilla, sì che dispiega le bellezze eterne. So, it's this act of generosity, of love, because that's what all of La Divina Commedia is all about, love on earth. And if you don't have love on earth, then if you don't have that feeling there, you get to go either to Inferno or to Purgatorio before you can go to Paradiso. Inferno, too late. Once you're there, that's it. But Purgatorio, there's a chance to go up. Ok, so la divina bontà che da sé sperne ogni livore, ardendo in sé, sfavilla sicché dispiega le bellezze eterne. Ciò che da lei senza mezzo distilla non ha poi fine, perché non si muove la sua imprenta quand'ella sigilla. So, ciò che da lei senza mezzo distilla non ha poi fine. So, this bellezza, this amore, this generosity of God continues. La sua imprenta quand'ella sigilla, so in other words, it keeps going. Ciò che da essa senza mezzo piove, libero è tutto, perché non soggiace alla virtù delle cose nuove. Più le conforme e però più le piace, che l'ardor santo che ogni cosa raggia nella più somigliante e più vivace. So it says this love, this faith that you have is there because of your faith. So in other words, without faith, you can't access the love, the divine love. It's a fair enough comment. So how many people have got that? Di tutte queste doti s'avvantaggia l'umana creatura. So human creatures, us, we have s'avvantaggia this faith gives you an advantage. Because you are free, don't forget you can do the wrong thing. Di tutte queste doti s'avvantaggia l'umana creatura, nessuna manca di sua nobilità convien che caccia. Solo il peccato è quel che la disfranca e falla dissimile al sommo bene, perché del lume suo poco si imbianca, e in sua dignità mai non rivene se non riempie dove coppa vota contro mal dilettar con giuste pene. So this is the explanation of saying you have the faith, you're following whatever is prescribed that you do, and then if you have this, you're at an advantage, because don't forget, you are free to do the wrong thing. Solo il peccato è quel che la disfranca. Il peccato, the things that you do against God or humans, other your fellow being. Don't forget the 10 commandments, the first 2. Solo il peccato è quel che la disfranca e falla dissimile al sommo bene. So, al sommo bene is l'amore. So, if you sin, then you don't have that. So, it's on the other side, sort of thing. Perché del lume suo poco si imbianca, e in sua dignità mai non rivene, se non riempie dove coppa vota, contro mal dilettar con giuste pene. So in other words, if you committed sin, you must then atone for your sins because of your freedom. And that's the way I understand these lines. Now, I'm not really, reading the notes now. I've done it before a little bit, but what I'm saying now comes from my reading of Canto 7, the way I see it. And I could be wrong, but I hope that you can make it, can check it out, check me out by getting, Paradiso, la Divina Commedia. Ok. Vostra natura, quando peccò, tota nel seme suo, da queste dignità di come di paradiso fu remota. So the minute vostra natura, the minute humans sinned through Adam, then he was thrown out of Paradiso Terrestre and had to live for centuries, for him and all that follow him, away from God's generosity. Vostra natura quando peccò tota nel seme suo, da queste dignità di come di paradiso fu remota. Né ricovrar potenzi se tu badi ben sottilmente per alcuna via, senza passar per un di questi guadi, o che Dio solo per sua cortesia dimesso avesse, o che l'uomo per sé esso avesse soddisfatto a sua follia. Ficcamo l'occhio per entro l'abisso dell'eterno consiglio, quando puoi al mio parlar distrattamente fisso. So, this one here, I'm not quite sure what Dante is trying to say here, but it says, ne ricordo potenze, tu badi ben sottilmente per alcuna, senza passare per uno di questi guadi. So you have to try to understand God's divine justice. You can't do it. Per se esso avesse soddisfatto o che l'uomo per se esso avesse soddisfatto, would have understood, ficcami l'occhio. Penetra ora l'occhio della tua mente nella profondità dei decreti divini, consiglio mantenendosi aderente quanto più puoi al mio ragionamento. So in other words, follow what I say. Follow what the church tells you to do. Because they are the representatives of God on earth. And they are fallible, except the Pope is infallible when he decrees divine laws. L'avvertimento, sospendendo il discorso esplicativo, sottolinea con più forza la complessità e la delicatezza del passaggio successivo. So let's have a look what happens now. Non potea l'uomo né termini suoi mai soddisfar per non potere ir giuso con umiltate obbediendo poi. Quando disobbediente intese il suso, e questa è la cagione perché l'uomo fu da poter soddisfar per sé dischiuso. Dunque a Dio convenia con le vie sue riparar l'uomo a sua intera vita, dico con l'una over con ambedue, ma perché l'opra tanto è più gradita dall'operante quanto più appresenta della bontà del cuore ond'ella è uscita. So God has given us his generosity, and he's opened up the possibility of our own redemption. So that's what you have to understand, that this was the path. God could have forgiven all of humanity straight away, but no, it's much better for us to have the freedom that we have and make the mistakes that we do and earn our place in paradise. That's what, basically. Ma perché l'opera tanto è più gradita dall'operante, quanto più appresenta della bontà del cuore ond'ella è uscita, il cuore di Dio, no? La divina bontà che il mondo imprenta, so the divine generosity, di procedere per tutte le sue vie, to follow all its paths. E rivelarvi suso fu contenta, and having done this, la rivelazione, it makes you happy. In other words, if you do the right thing, you'll be going up there. Né tra l'ultima notte e il primo dia si alto o si magnifico processo, o per l'uno o per l'altro fu e fie, che più largo fu Dio a dar se stesso per far l'uomo sufficiente a rilevarsi, che se li avesse sol da sé dimesso, e tutti gli altri modi erano scarsi, e la giustizia, se il figliuolo di Dio non fosse umiliato ad incarnarsi. So there is a sort of a divine plan to justify, in a way, the existence of the church on earth. That's what all this is about too. Per far l'uomo sufficiente. So in other words, this God's generosity wants humanity, to rise above itself with its own means, but always within the protection of the Lord. Or per empierti bene ogni desio, ritorna a dichiararti in alcun loco, perché tu veggi lì cosi com'io. Welcome to Dominic Petrasso. Tu dici, io veggio l'acqua, io veggio il fuoco, l'aere e la terra e tutte loro misture venire a corruzione e durar poco. E queste cose pur furono creature, perché se ciò che detto è stato vero, esse dovranno la corruzione sicura. So tu dici, io veggio l'acqua, io veggio il fuoco, l'aria e la terra. So I see all this, I see water, the fire, the air and the earth, e tutte loro misure venire a corruzione. All these things are corrupted. Eventually they get corrupted. Perché se ciò che detto è stato vero, esse dovranno la corruzione sicura. So in other words, I think this is where il soffio di Dio in Adam. So in other words, everything is corrupts on earth because it's material. But there's one thing that's eternal, and that's the soul. That's the breath of God that has been placed in everyone's body. Not bad. Gli angeli, frate, e il paese sincero nel quale tu sei, dir si possono creati siccome sono il loro essere intero. So just ask the angels here that are also creatures of God, and they never had a body like men and women have. But don't forget that in the Middle Ages, women were not created directly by God, but were created through Adam's body, from his side. Let me have a drink and then I'll continue. So gli angeli, frate, è il paese sincero nel quale tu sei. Il paese, that's il cielo di Mercurio, no? Because it's over there. Dir si possono creati, they can tell you, siccome sono il loro essere intero. Ma gli alimenti che tu hai nomati e quelle cose che di loro si fanno da creata virtù sono informati. Creata fu la materia che elli hanno. Creata fu la virtù informante in queste stelle che intorno a loro vanno. Everything was created. L'anima d'ogni bruto e delle piante di compressione potenziata tira lo raggio e il moto delle luci sante. So the soul is like these angels here. It's l'anima d'ogni bruto is free from all this material corruption. Ma vostra vita sanza mezzo spira la somma beninanza e la innamore di sé, sicché poi sempre la desira. So we are made material as a body, but our soul is eternal. And he says, keeping that soul healthy for paradise requires us to look after it. Very smart. E quindi, so, because you always desire it, whether you like it or not, you always desire for your soul to be whole when you die. When we die, I too. Anche Dante se n'è andato tanto tempo fa. E quindi puoi argomentare ancora vostra resurrezione, se tu ripensi come l'umana carne fesse allora che i primi parenti in trampo fensi. So, quindi puoi argomentare ancora, you can discuss, vostra resurrezione, your resurrection. Se tu ripensi, se tu think again, che l'umana carne, the flesh, fesse allora come i primi parenti in trampo fensi. Cioè Adamo ed Eva, il sostantivo deriva dal latino parentes, like them. Canto 7 is... it's a difficult one. If it continues like this, but by the time we finish, we'll have gone through some of the church's theology studies, and we would be able to then update our knowledge of God, the nature of God, the nature of Jesus Christ. The people who don't believe in that they say that he was only a prophet or whatever. But you know, if you are like Dante, like the people in the Middle Ages, that you believe this particular situation, well, this particular statement that faith is everything. So in other words, if you can't understand the nature of the incarnazione di Cristo, della sua risurrezione, and before the resurrection, la crocifissione, and then la fede. So it's incarnation, Christ becoming a man and retaining his divine nature. 2 is crucifixion. So in other words, he redeems humanity through this. Welcome to Antonio Dante. So what happens then is that after the crucifixion, there's the resurrection. So the redemption, that Christ from that cave, from that tomb, then went up to heaven. And then he sent Lo Spirito Santo to his disciples, in other words, to the church. So these are precepts of the Catholic faith. And if you have faith, if you believe in these things here, don't forget, even one of the disciples, Tommaso, he doubted what Christ was saying. So it's all right to doubt, but you are fortunate if you actually believe. That's Canto 7. I look forward to next week. I'll be away, as I said before, this coming week I won't be on until next Sunday. So the French, the world history, the Italian and the Spanish lessons won't be, I won't be there this coming week. I'll restart the week after. As I said, I'm going to enjoy my work and have my own freedom, because that's what it's all about too. For me, not to be too much stuck into having to come here at a particular time, because there are only a few people coming on, and thank you very much for the people today. But I can tell you, between us, that over 100 people each week come through to listen to what I have to say. I'm not sure whether they do or don't. Not many people actually make any comments, which is okay, not a problem. But that's it. Now that's the end. It's 7:50. I now have a few minutes to. Well, I'm going. Even if I got a little bit longer today, doesn't matter. I'm supposed to finish at 8. I've got 12 minutes. In this case here, I'm going to read now from TomPadula's Amica Poesia number 2. La natura in città. Ci sono molte occasioni in cui prendiamo nota dell'effetto che la natura ha sull'ambiente creato dall'uomo. In foglie autunnali siamo specialmente consci delle foglie che cadono, quando cadono, come cadono, che cosa succede quando arrivano a terra. Come sembra che le stesse foglie reagiscono e come noi da umani ci teniamo indietro come osservatori. Ci sono sempre certamente delle persone che non sembrano notare molte cose, visto che sono troppo occupate, gente che guarda a questo evento con indifferenza, gente che è anche capace di fare poesia su questo. That's me. Proprio come in una doccia in città, quando dopo un lungo periodo di siccità una doccia viene per rompere la monotonia della vita. Questo evento porta con sé un cambiamento di emozioni, sia per la città che per la gente che vi abita. Dopo questo breve secco periodo l'onnipotente sole ritorna per regnare supremo un'altra volta ancora. And I'll read you una doccia in città. I'm going a bit faster because I have to I have to do the songs. Ok, una doccia in città is the poem. Una città che si fa una doccia dopo una lunga giornata di sole è orgogliosa della sua nuova veste. Strisce di acqua che corrono sui marciapiedi, gocce che spariscono sulle linee dei tramvai, la gente che inala l'aria fresca, un bambino con la bocca aperta prende le gocce con la sua lingua, il miracolo della natura passa, la città si illumina di nuovo sotto i raggi possenti dell'eterna potenza del cielo. I've got one little one called Farfalletta multicolore. Nel frastuono del traffico e la confusione dei passanti, l'altro giorno ho visto in città appiccicata una vetrina di lusso, una farfalletta multicolore. There you are. So that's it for my contribution now. Now we're going to go to the singing part. So, as usual, the computer here is going to give me maybe grief. Never know. Here we go. Let's see if, just be patient, because I know what the problem is now. Let's see if iCloud gives me trouble today. Here we go. Here we go. We start with this lovely picture. Next one. Here we go. This next song is Piove, made famous by Domenico Modugno, who I admire immensely because he was such an artist, you know, with his creativity, his artistry. You know, he sang, he was comfortable with theatre, the poetry, the whole works. So today we're doing one of his songs called Piove. Okay, let's have a look. Now, if this here, now, you just have to be patient now because I have to go back into my program because I was out for too long and the computer doesn't like it, of course. So, let me see, where am I here? So just be patient, won't be long. I know what to do now. Here we go. How long will it take? About less than a minute, I think I can get in. And then I'll be right. I've had problems with this over a long period of time, but now I've worked it out. And by the way, whilst you're waiting, if you want to join me in a class, I've got 3 students who wanted to learn Italian, 3 adult students. If we have another 3 more, people come and see me. It'll be on a Monday afternoon, maybe, at Tom's in Brunswick. I would love you to be there. Yes? Now, won't be long, another little bit, and then we'll be right. Okay, let's have a look. So, yes, I'm very, very pleased to be able to say that I will start my classes at Tom's place in Brunswick. Okay, so where are we now? Just 1 second. Oh, too much. Patience, pazienza, pazienza. 23, we want. Yes. Well, just be patient, please. We're getting there, slowly but surely. July. Okay, now I think I need August. Won't be long. Won't be long, and we'll get to Piove. It took a minute, hasn't it? It's been a minute. Another bit. Dear. Almost there. Here we are. Okay, we'll start again. I said we'll start with this picture here. Okay. There we are. You've been patient, you're still there. If you are, you'll be rewarded with 3 songs. Now this one here we did before, right? So that was, we did the introduction, and now we need the song. Here it is, Piove. Piove, 1000 violini suonati dal vento, tutti i colori dell'arcobaleno, vanno a fermare una pioggia d'argento, ma piove, piove sul nostro amor. Ciao, ciao bambina, un bacio ancora, e poi per sempre ti perderà. Come una fiaba, l'amore passa, c'era una volta, poi non c'è più. Cos'è che trema sul tuo visino, e pioggia o pianto, dimmi cos'è. Vorrei trovare parole nuove, ma piove, piove sul nostro amore. Ciao bambina, ti voglio tanto bene, ciao ciao. Ciao ciao bambina, non ti voltare, non posso dirti rimani ancora. Vorrei trovare parole nuove, ma piove, piove sul nostro amore. Now, the next one, here we go. Welcome to Morris Licata. This next song, Ledera, is famous, made famous by Nilla Pizzi, but of course Orietta Berti, Giulio Cinquetti sang it too, but we're going to follow Nilla Pizzi's style, that sort of thing, but our way. And Dora knows it. He said, oh, mi piace cantare. I said, well, why don't you do the beginning and we'll continue. Okay, so let's go with ledera. Let's go with ledera, yeah. See, that works, everything works. Ledera. Chi lo può dire? Chissà se un giorno potrò l'amor capire, ma guarda che nello sfior e che mani ha vinto come leggera, mi sento a te. Chissà se m'ami oppure no, ma tua sarò. Son qui fra le tue braccia ancora, avvinta come leggera. Son qui, respiro il tuo respiro, son ledera legata al tuo cuore. Sono folle di te e questa gioventù in un sistema anelito. Voglio offrirti con l'anima senza nulla mai chiedere. Così mi sentirai così, avvinta come ledera. Perché in ogni mio respiro tu senta palpitare il mio cuore, finché luce d'amor sul mondo splenderà, finché mi hai dato vivere, a te mi legherò, a te consacrerò la vita. Wow. That was good. That's a bit of a picture there. And now the next one is Al Di Là. It's another famous one. Okay, so here we go. This song here is Al Di Là. It's the last one for today, but it's Al Di Là. Al Di Là, or further out. But, and it's a famous song made famous especially by people like Connie Francis, the Americans. You know, they sort of, all of them sort of sang this song. And today, here in Australia, we're going to do Al Di Là, our way, but trying to, you know...
Make it better.
Well, make it as good as we can.
Acceptable.
Okay. Here we are, Al Di Là. Dora, Al Di Là. Non credevo possibile si potessero dire queste parole. Al di là del bene più prezioso, ci sei tu. Al di là del sogno più ambizioso, ci sei tu. Al di là delle cose più belle, al di là delle stelle, ci sei tu, al di là, ci sei tu per me, soltanto per me. Al di là del mare più profondo, ci sei tu, al di là dei limiti del mondo, ci sei tu. Al di là della volta infinita, al di là della vita, ci sei tu, al di là, ci sei tu per me. La la la, al di là della volta infinita, al di là della vita, ci sei tu. Al di là ci sei tu per me, per me. Ah dear. Now we weren't happy we weren't happy with that version there, so we decided to do it again. And I'm going to play it again because I encourage you to come and to learn these lyrics and sing them. And if you want the originals, just go to YouTube and go for it. Here we go. Al di là again. D'ora adesso facciamo al di là. Ok. Vai. Non credevo possibile se potessero dire queste parole. Al di là del bene più prezioso ci sei tu, al di là del sogno più ambizioso ci sei tu, al di là delle cose più belle, al di là delle stelle ci sei tu, al di là ci sei tu per me, soltanto per me. Al di là del mare più profondo ci sei tu, al di là dei limiti del mondo ci sei tu, al di là della volta infinita, al di là della vita ci sei tu, al di là ci sei tu per me. La 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 la, al di là della volta infinita, al di là della vita ci sei tu, al di là ci sei tu per me, per me. Wow. Now this a bit of a summary of the day because we did make quite a few mistakes. The evening and Rena wanted to go away, but you have to say a few words. What did you think of today?
Oh no, everything worked out the way accordingly the way we wanted to. Yeah,
it's worked out. Dora, we had some beautiful moments here with some of these songs.
Terrific.
Because you said that you don't hear these songs
often. No. I don't hear anywhere. No. Anyway, they're not playing this sort of song.
Yet they have a story, they are really beautiful words. The lyrics are,
lyric is not easy anyway.
The lyric is not 41, the chorus, but when you read the whole lot, there is a real story there.
There is a story.
So I want to thank you for this afternoon again.
That's all right.
Thank you to you, Tom. Anyway,
we'll see you
nice
again
to have this
next time we'll be around
Ciao a tutti.
for
Ciao,
better.
ciao.
Yeah,
All the best.
Something.
Now, I've gone over time, of course, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's important to finish off what I planned. The last bit there, the songs, we do 6 songs every time we meet, and they get put on. There isn't much work done beforehand, rehearsals, etc. We just go straight into the song because the aim is the lyrics of the songs. So we do our best. Some of them come out very well and some are not so good, but that's what will happen to you too. So today, on behalf of me, Tom Padula, from TomPadulaTV on YouTube and Insegna Booksellers, also TomPadula.blogspot.com, where you can see this particular program and other ones. I farewell you. Thank you very much for today. I'll finish off. Ciao. Until next Sunday. Bye-bye.